Pocatello is a city in Idaho in the northwestern part of the country. It's known for being a close-knit, mostly quiet place with a large population of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. People there tend to look out for one another, and for a long time it's been seen as a safe place to live. For more than a century, Pocatello has welcomed tourists, travelers, and families who are proud to call it home. But in 2006, that sense of safety was shaken in a way no one there expected. Cassie Stoddard was born just 4 days before Christmas in 1989. She grew up in a loving, supportive family who adored her. She did well in school,
stayed out of trouble, and had a solid group of friends. By all accounts, she was dependable and mature for her age, someone people trusted. Because of that, her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, asked Cassie to house-sit for them and take care of their pets while they were out of town. She agreed. On the evening of September 22, 2006, Cassie went over to their home on Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Bond County. Around 6 p.m.,
she invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, to come over and keep her company. Later that night, two of their friends from Pocatello High School, Draper and Tory Adamcik, stopped by as well. Cassie showed them around the house, and then the four of them settled in to watch a movie. They were about halfway through Kill Bill Volume 2 when Brian and Tory said they'd rather go out to a movie theater instead. Not long after, they left the house. Cassie and Matt stayed behind, trying to relax and enjoy the rest of the evening. Then, out of nowhere, the power went out. Cassie felt uneasy,
unsure what to do, but after a short time, the lights came back on. Not long after that, Matt noticed one of the dogs staring down the basement stairs. The dog started barking and growling, but Matt didn't think much of it at the time. As the night went on and he grew more uncomfortable, Matt called his mother to ask if he could stay over with her since she was feeling unsafe. His mom said no, but she offered to let Cassie come and stay at their house instead. Cassie turned that down. She promised her family she'd watch the house, and she felt like she needed to stay. Around 10:30 p.m., Matt's mother came to pick him up. Before leaving, Matt tried calling Brian and Tory to see if they wanted to meet up again. When Tory answered, he was whispering, and Matt couldn't really make out what he was saying. In the end, nothing came of it, and Matt went home. 2 days later, on Sunday, Cassie's family returned to the house on Whispering Cliffs Drive. When they went inside, Cassie's 13-year-old cousin was the first to notice something was wrong. What he saw is something no child should ever have to see. Cassie was lying on the living room floor. She had been stabbed to death. Police arrived quickly and shut the house down as a crime scene. An autopsy later showed that Cassie had been stabbed around 30 times, with at least 12 of those wounds considered potentially fatal. The attack was violent and overwhelming. Just 3 days after Cassie's body was discovered, police announced they had made arrests.
The news sent shockwaves through Pocatello. In a community where people knew each other and felt safe, the arrests were almost impossible to process. Brian Draper and Tory Adams were taken into custody and questioned by investigators. People were stunned. These weren't strangers. They were classmates, friends, people Cassie trusted and spent time with. Brian and Tory were both seen as social outsiders, but Cassie had been kind to them. She welcomed them, talked to them, and treated them like everyone else. Brian had spent much of his childhood in Utah before moving to Pocatello with his family. It was at Pocatello High School that he met Tory, and the two quickly bonded over their shared love of movies.
They carried a camera everywhere, recording parts of their lives, and Cassie appeared in several of their videos. On September 27th, after hours of questioning, Brian agreed to take police to the place where he and Tory had gotten rid of items connected to Cassie's murder. Officers recovered black fingerless gloves, several knives, a partially burned mask, a Sony videotape, and a partially burned handwritten note. Investigators worked to piece together what they could from the note. Some of the words were still readable. Lines like, Is home alone. Scope out the house. Runs into Tory. We murder Cassie. Brian chases her. Kill her. By this point, a clear and disturbing picture was forming. This wasn't something that happened in the heat of the moment. It had been thought through, planned, and written down ahead of time. It was something they had talked about and decided to do. As the investigation continued, even more disturbing evidence came to light. Brian and Tory had filmed Cassie earlier that morning at school, on the day she was killed. Investigators also found video of the two of them talking excitedly about what they were planning to do later that night.
There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're going to want it more. We found our victim, and sad, maybe she's our friend, but you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie's daughter. She's going to be alone in a big dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude. I'm horny just thinking about it. The full horror of what happened to Cassie Stoddard that night slowly came into focus. Earlier, when she had given Brian and Tory a tour of the house, she had shown them the basement. Before leaving that evening, Brian had unlocked the door so they could get back in later without being noticed. After saying they were going to the cinema, the two left the house.
But instead of actually going, they returned to the neighborhood a short time later and parked down the street. They changed into dark clothes, put on gloves and masks, and then made their way back to the house. They let themselves in through the unlocked basement door and cut the power at the circuit breaker, plunging the house into darkness. They were hoping Cassie or Matt would come downstairs to investigate, but when neither did, they turned the lights back on. The dog that had been growling and staring at the basement noticed them hiding there. Later, when Matt called to see if they wanted to hang out, Tory whispered, trying to make sure he wouldn't discover them inside the house. Once they were sure Matt had left, they cut the power again. Brian slammed a door at the top of the stairs, trying to scare Cassie. Then, over the course of a horrifying and deliberate sequence, they attacked her, stabbing her to death. The investigation revealed more disturbing details. Police discovered footage documenting parts of the crime, showing the planning and execution.
I stabbed her in the throat, and I saw her lifeless body just disappeared. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like it wasn't even real. I mean, it went by so fast. Shut the fuck up. We gotta get our action straight. Okay. Brian Draper and Tory Adamcik, two seemingly ordinary 16-year-old boys, were charged with first-degree murder. During interviews, the two turned on each other. At first, Brian claimed that while he had been in the room when Cassie was killed, it was Tory who had actually stabbed her. Later, he admitted to stabbing her himself, but said he had done so under Tory's instructions. As the trial began, the small city of Pocatello became the focus of a national media storm. Journalists from across the country descended to cover the case.
Following every shocking detail as it unfolded, the video footage played in court left everyone in the room stunned. People watched in silence as it showed how Brian Draper and Tory Adams had planned the crime in detail and the disturbing way they seemed to take pleasure in attacking their classmate and friend. One question everyone wanted answered was why. Brian later admitted that he had been inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the two teenagers who carried out the Columbine High School massacre in 1999. Tory, on the other hand, was reportedly influenced by the horror film Scream. In that movie, a masked killer stalks high school students, frightening and terrorizing them before attacking, an element that Tory seemed to imitate in real life. On April 17, 2007, Brian Draper was found guilty. Less than 2 months later, Tory Adams was also convicted. Both were found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In addition, they each received 30 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder. Their life sentences could be reviewed because of Miller versus Alabama, a case that ruled mandatory life without parole for juvenile offenders unconstitutional. Since then, both Brian and Tory have filed several appeals, but none have been successful. They are currently serving their sentences at the Idaho State Correctional Institution. In the years since the murder, both have appeared in multiple documentaries about the case. Tory was also interviewed for an episode of the true crime show Justice. During the investigation,
He was briefly a suspect in the stabbing death of a woman in her own home in Pocatello 2 years before Cassie's murder, though DNA evidence later cleared him. Police also gained additional insight into Tory while investigating. A phone interview with Brian revealed more disturbing details about Tory's personality, adding to the understanding of how these two teenagers could carry out such a horrific crime. Tory's mother, Shannon, later wrote a book about her son's case called The Guilty Innocent. In it, she takes readers behind the scenes of the trial and argues that the prosecutors were more concerned with public opinion than the truth. She also claims that her son's defense team, who had never handled a murder case before, lacked the experience he needed to properly defend himself. In 2010, Cassie's family filed a civil lawsuit against the state of Idaho. They argued that Brian and Tory had long been a threat to others and that the school had failed to recognize the danger. The courts disagreed. Both the civil court and the state Supreme Court dismissed the claim, ruling that the actions of the two teens were not foreseeable. The devastation caused by Cassie's murder is impossible to measure. On the day she was found, her family left her aunt and uncle's house and never went back. Police helped clean up the crime scene and arrange temporary housing, but the family couldn't bring themselves to return. They've tried to sell the house several times, but so far no one has bought it. Through all this, Cassie's family has fought tirelessly, not just for justice, but to make sure the memory of their bright, funny, and hard-working daughter lives on. They want everyone to remember her for who she was, not just for the tragedy that ended her life. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant.